Welcome listeners to my History Capstone Project. I'm your host, Talib Memon. Today we're embarking on a journey back to the 1940s to explore a technological marvel that not only transformed the way wars were fought, but also laid the groundwork for the digital revolution. We're talking about ENIAC, the world's first electronic general-purpose computer. Our thesis for today's episode is, the development of ENIAC during World War II not only transformed military operations, but also laid the groundwork for modern computing, enabling breakthroughs in fields such as science, engineering, and academia, and driving technological progress through the middle of the 20th century. In this episode, we'll dive deep into how ENIAC's creation was driven by wartime needs, how it became a game-changer for scientific research, and how its influence rippled through industries to shape the digital age. Get comfortable because we're about to uncover how one machine changed the course of history. To truly understand the impact of ENIAC, we need to rewind to the early 1940s. The world was in turmoil as World War II raged on, and the US was under immense pressure to find technological advantages that could shift the tides in their favor. The complexity of modern warfare required rapid calculations that were beyond the capabilities of the traditional manual methods used at the time. This was especially true for calculating artillery firing tables, which were crucial for accurately aiming long-range weapons. Before ENIAC, the US Army relied on human computers, teams of mathematicians, often women, who manually performed calculations using mechanical desk calculators. This process was not only slow, but also prone to errors, which could mean the difference between life and death on the battlefield. According to Martin H. Weick in the ENIAC story, the urgency for faster and more accurate computations led the US Army's Ordnance Department to fund a revolutionary project that would change the face of computing for evolution, came from two visionaries at the University of Pennsylvania's Moore School of Electrical Engineering, John Mauchly and J. Presper Eckert. They proposed the concept of an all-electronic computing machine capable of performing calculations thousands of times faster than existing methods. As Aaron Strauss explains in his article, ENIAC, the first computer, their idea was revolutionary because it completely bypassed the limitations of mechanical calculators by using vacuum tubes for switching. Vacuum, though large and prone to burning out, allowed ENIAC to achieve speeds previously thought impossible. The final machine, completed in 1945, used nearly 18,000 vacuum tubes, consumed about 150 kilowatts of power, and took up 1,800 square feet of space. Imagine a room filled wall to wall with blinking lights, switches, and cables. It was a beast of a machine by today's standards, but back then it was a marvel of engineering. The impact on military operations was immediate. ENIAC could calculate artillery tables in seconds, rather than the hours or even days it took human computers. The system could perform 5,000 additions, 357 multiplications, or 38 divisions per second. Numbers that were astonishing at the time. This speed means tactical strategists could adjust artillery trajectories in real time, significantly enhancing the effectiveness of ground operations. However, ENIAC was not completed until after the war ended. By that point, its role as a wartime tool was less critical, but its capabilities were far too significant to be left idle. According to George W. Platzman, in the ENIAC computations of 1950, ENIAC was soon repurposed for scientific research, including some of the earliest efforts in numerical weather prediction. These new applications mark the beginning of ENIAC's second life, a life that would prove even more transformative than its military origins. Once World War II ended, the scientific community began to realize that ENIAC's capabilities could be leveraged for much more than military calculations. This was a pivotal moment in history. With the war no longer consuming resources, the US government and universities had the freedom to explore new ways to use this powerful machine. According to Campbell, Kelly, and Asprey in Inventing the Computer, this transition from military to civilian use was essential in demonstrating the broader potential of electronic computers. One of the most significant areas IAC made an impact was in scientific research. Its ability to handle complex computations opened new doors in fields that relied on heavy data analysis, such as physics, chemistry, and engineering. The machine was soon put to use solving equations related to nuclear physics, aerodynamics, and even space exploration. Balaban and Bobbitt explain that the ability to automate these calculations allowed researchers to tackle problems that had been previously deemed unsolvable. ENIAC's influence extended to meteorology. In the early 1950s, scientists began using ENIAC to simulate weather patterns. Platzmann's article provides a fascinating account of how ENIAC was used to run numerical weather prediction models, a precursor to the sophisticated weather forecasting systems we rely on today. This shift from purely theoretical models to compute simulations marked a new era in science, one where data-driven predictions became possible. But the significance of ENIAC didn't stop with scientific research. As James Surowiecki points out in his review, Thinkers and Tinkerers, the innovations that came out of the ENIAC project inspired a generation of engineers and technologists. The machine demonstrated that electronic computing was not Jing novelty, but a transformative technology with the potential to reshape entire industries. This transition was not without challenges, though. At the time, ENIAC was considered a one-of-a-kind prototype. Its creators, Mauchly and Eckert, had to fight to convince the public and private sectors that electronic computing was not only feasible, but also essential for the future. As Campbell Kelly and Asprey note, the commercialization of computing technology was still in its infancy, with most businesses hesitant to invest in such a radical new concept. ENIAC's journey from a wartime research project to a cornerstone of modern industry was neither straightforward nor guaranteed. Initially, the primary users of computers like ENIAC were universities and government research labs. Kathleen Broome Williams highlights how institutions like the Harvard Computation Laboratory continued to develop computing technology for both military and academic applications in the post-war years. But the tide began to turn in the early 1950s as industries started to recognize the potential of electronic computers. Balaban and Bobbitt explain that ENIAC and its successors began to infiltrate sectors such as finance, logistics, and manufacturing. The ability to automate complex calculations meant that businesses could optimize operator errors and ultimately increase profits. The shift to the private sector was accelerated by the development of commercial computers like UNIVAC, which was built by the same team that developed ENIAC. According to Strauss, UNIVAC was the first computer designed specifically for business use, allowing companies to process large amounts of data, such as customer records, sales figures, and inventory management, more efficiently than ever before. WMA Wolf argues that this new wave of computing technology would transform not only industry educational institutions. In his article, Warning, Information Technology Will Transform the University, Wolf foresaw a future where universities would rely on computers for everything from research to administration. And indeed, by the 1970s, computers had become integral to academic research, driving innovations in diverse as biology, economics, and engineering. So far, we've explored how ENIAC's initial purpose was to support the military during World War II and how it eventually found its place in the scientific community post-war. But let's take a deeper look at how ENIAC fundamentally transformed academia, science, and engineering in the mid-20th century. To truly appreciate the scope of ENIAC's impact, we have to consider the state of academia before its introduction. In the early 1940s, universities were still largely dependent on human computers. Teams of students and researchers manually crunching numbers using desk calculators. This process was not only slow, but also restricted the scale of research projects. ENIAC's introduction marked a paradigm shift. For the first time, researchers could approach complex problems that required millions of calculations, something that was previously unthinkable. WMA Wolf emphasized that the arrival of computing would fundamentally reshape higher education, allowing universities to tackle research problems with unprecedented speed and accuracy. He argued that just as the invention of the printing press had revolutionized the dissemination of knowledge, so too would computers transform how information was analyzed and applied. To give you a concrete example, let's look at how ENIAC was used in the early days of its academic life. Researchers at Princeton University, who were interested in the dynamics of shock waves, utilized ENIAC to simulate the behavior of these high-speed phenomena. According to Campbell Kelly and Asprey in Inventing the Computer, this early use of computational simulations was a precursor to the field of computational fluid dynamics, which is now essential in aerospace engineering, climate modeling, and even automotive design. The ripple effect of ENIAC's capabilities also reached the budding field of nuclear physics. In the 1950s, researchers working on nuclear energy and atomic weapons needed rapid, precise calculations to model chain reactions and nuclear decay. ENIAC was able to perform these tasks at speeds that were unimaginable with manual computation. As Strauss explains, the machine's ability to handle complex algorithms was crucial in advancing the United States atomic energy program, especially in the early days of the Cold War. This wasn't just a matter of crunching numbers faster. The ability to simulate complex physical systems led to new scientific insights that had a profound impact on engineering. Balaban and Bobbitt highlight that by the late 1950s, ENIAC and its successors had enabled engineers to optimize designs for everything from bridges to aircraft, reducing the need for costly physical prototypes. This shift accelerated the pace of technological progress, allowing innovations to reach the market faster than ever before. We've seen how ENIAC's transformative capabilities were harnessed by the military and academia. But its influence didn't stop there. The next chapter in ENIAC's story is how it opened the floodgates for the commercialization of computing, leading to the rise of a new industry that would change the world. In the years immediately following World War II, computers were still considered specialized tools used primarily by government agencies and research institutions. However, as Balaban and Bobbitt note, the late 1940s and early 1950s saw a shift in focus as private companies began to realize the potential of computers to revolutionize business operations. Companies like IBM and Remington Rand quickly recognized that electronic computers could be used to automate a wide range of processes, from payroll to inventory management. ENIAC's influence was crucial in this regard. According to Campbell Kelly and Asprey, the success of ENIAC demonstrated that large-scale electronic data processing was not only possible but also highly efficient. This realization led to the development of the Universal Automatic Computer, UNIVAC, the first commercial computer designed specifically for businesses. The UNIVAC, which was developed by Mauchly and Eckert after they left the University of Pennsylvania, became a commercial success and laid the foundation for the modern computer industry. But the transition wasn't smooth. There were many skeptics who doubted that computers would ever be useful outside of academia or the military. As James Surowiecki explains in his review, Thinkers and Tinkerers, early adopters of computer technology faced significant resistance from traditional industries that were wary of change. However, the rapid increase in data processing needs, particularly with the rise of consumer credit, banking, and insurance, soon proved the skeptics wrong. One of the earliest and most famous uses of computers in the private sector was the processing of the U.S. Census in 1950. The U.S. government contracted Remington Rand to use UNIVAC to analyze census data, reducing the time required to process the information from several years to just a few months. Strauss highlights that this was a pivotal moment, demonstrating to corporations that computers were not just scientific toys, but practical tools that could save time and money on a massive scale. From there, the private sector quickly embraced the new technology. By the late 1950s, computers were being used by airlines to manage reservations, by manufacturers to streamline production, and by banks to automate bookkeeping. The ripple effect was enormous, and as Campbell Kelly and Asprey note, it set the stage for the explosive growth of the technology sector in the 1960s and beyond. So, what is ENIAC's legacy today? Why should we, in the era of smartphones and supercomputers, still care about this machine that was built nearly 80 years ago? The answer lies in understanding how ENIAC not only initiated a technological revolution, but also set the philosophical groundwork for the information age. ENIAC's most enduring legacy is the concept of a general-purpose computer. Before ENIAC, machines were typically built to perform a single task, such as solving specific mathematical problems or controlling industrial processes. ENIAC, on the other hand, was programmable. This flexibility, as Martin H. Weick explains, allowed it to be repurposed for a wide range of applications beyond its original military use. In essence, ENIAC demonstrated that a single machine could be adapted to solve any computational problem, a principle that is at the heart of all modern computing. But perhaps even more importantly, ENIAC laid the foundation for the development of computer programming. According to Strauss, the process of programming ENIAC, originally done using switches and patch cables, was the precursor to the development of programming languages like Fortran and COBOL, which would eventually democratize computing by making it accessible to non-specialists. Today, we live in a world where computing power is all around us, in our pockets, on our wrists, even in our household appliances. The idea that we can program a device to perform virtually any task traces back to the innovations of ENIAC's designers. Surowiecki highlights that the spirit of experimentation and innovation that characterized the development of ENIAC is still alive today in the tech industry, where companies like Google, Apple, and Microsoft continue to push the boundaries of what computers can do. The legacy of ENIAC is not just in the machines it inspired, but in the mindset it fostered. By showing that technology could be harnessed to solve problems once considered unsolvable, ENIAC paved the way for the digital revolution that has transformed every aspect of our lives, from healthcare and education to entertainment and communication. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. We've taken you on a journey through time, from the battlefields of World War II to the birth of Silicon Valley, showing how a machine born out of necessity became the catalyst for a technological revolution. ENIAC was more than just a computer. It was a spark that ignited a new way of thinking about what machines could do. Its legacy lives on in every device we use today, and its story is a testament to the power of human ingenuity. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the history of ENIAC. Until next time, I'm Talib Memon, and this has been my Capstone Project.